And just like that, we are live. We've got an awesome podcast for you guys today. We're so excited to be here. This is episode 569 of Extreme Health Radio. Pretty cool, right?
Really?
569 shows.
Shoot.
Yep.
My mom would say, it's nothing to shake a stick at.
All right.
I almost screwed that up and said a bad word. I had to think about that one.
Man,
I was trying to say that 10 times fast.
I know, right? We're going to be talking about our birth story, but before, I wanted to share with you guys some of the upcoming shows we have. We have Mama Natural coming up.
Gosh, we recorded that forever ago.
I know.
That's
that was
okay.
a good show, though.
That was great.
But we've got Dr. Mark Circus coming up, and he's an awesome guy out of Brazil.
Sweet.
One of my, I call him a virtual mentor, Dr. Jack Cruz.
Right? You
he's
love
awesome.
his stuff, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then we've got a show on the immune system, 15 different ways to boost the immune system. And then we have Nicholas Pinault. I think that's how you say his name.
Yeah, how do I know that name?
Well, we talked with him about 5G.
Oh, that's right.
Were you on that show?
No.
No, you weren't? Yeah, that was a crazy show. And then we have Dr. Veronique Desagneaux.
Wow, look at you.
Look at that.
You should be like a cheesemonger in France.
Really?
Well, yeah.
Well, get me a job over there and I'll go over there. And so we talked with her about breast cancer. That was a really cool show. Dr. John Bergman is going to be after that. And then we've got Karen Urbanic, and we talked about deep cellular healing. We also have Dr. Richard Massey and Meridian Grace coming up too.
Nice. Together?
Different shows.
Okay.
Different shows. I like to get them separate because they've got so much to share themselves.
Yeah, they're cool.
That, there's so much to talk about themselves. So.
Right.
And then Dentist Extraordinaire, really interesting guy. He's a part of the Knights Templar. Or no, not Knights. Knights Hospital.
Oh, gosh. I'm like, isn't that conspiratorial?
He's a member of the Illuminati.
Oh, my gosh. I can't laugh. We have the director of the Illuminati on our show.
Yeah, he's going to be on the 25th.
What would be the first question you would ask him?
What are you doing with this world? Why are you trying to kill us?
Oh my gosh!
No, it's a night.
You're like.
I can't believe I said Knights.
I can't laugh.
What did I say?
Knights of the Templar.
Knights of Templar.
And you're like, so what about this vaccine thing?
Yeah, what are you guys really trying to do with this?
Wouldn't that be it'd be so funny and so easy just to get a straight answer.
Oh, that would be so funny.
My gosh.
But I should have said Knights. It's weird because it's like you always hear Knights of Templar, right?
Well,
like
you do.
Well, yeah.
No one else does.
When you watch the crazy YouTube videos, I do. But you don't hear Knights.
I hear Knights of the Round Table.
Knights of the Round Table. Where's that from?
I don't know. It's just something that isn't that like a
is that like
in all the movies
secret society thing?
I don't even know. But you've never heard that term?
I feel like I've heard Knights Templar.
Well, I think Round Table was like back in the Renaissance. Wasn't that like when they'd all meet and like? I mean, it sounds like a secret society.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like Braveheart or something. Anyway.
Totally.
Okay, what did you...
Well, Dr. Gerald Smith is part of Knights Hospitaller.
Gotcha.
Or something like that.
So it's close.
Yeah, so it's close. I messed up.
Maybe he is the Illuminati leader.
So we got a lot of cool shows. He's an interesting guy, that Dr. Gerald Smith. So stay tuned.
Have we had him on?
We've had him on, yeah. He was on like episode like 6
30?
or 30 or 20 or somewhere around there.
Was I on that?
I don't think so. I think you came on around 75 or something.
I'll want to be on this one.
Yeah, but that was a really cool show we did with him. So yeah, stay tuned for more shows on Extreme Health Radio. So we've got a lot of cool stuff. But today
on the Illuminati Radio,
Extreme Health Illuminati Radio
special edition.
Special edition.
That's so funny.
So thanks guys for joining us. Today we've got a crazy story to share with you guys. We sort of mentioned it on our Instagram, and a lot of people, people have been following us and staying tuned with the pregnancy. And man, do we have a crazy story about the birth of our twin boys.
What are we? How many days out?
How many days out are we of it?
Yeah, of the birth.
Like a week and a couple days?
9 days.
9 days?
Woo!
So where should we start? So let's just start with the actual...
conception.
So first of all, I just want to share with people, like, it's not just a story about our birth, but there's some cool things that I think you're going to take away from this as a result of us going through what we went through. So that's why I think it's important for everyone to listen to, even if you don't have kids or if you're not interested in raising kids or you don't want kids. It has to do with the hospital and things that we... procedures and rights. Yeah.
And fighting for what you believe in.
Right.
Yeah, it goes a lot deeper for sure.
So where should we start? Let's start with like the actual pregnancy itself was incredibly just, it's one of the things where you don't want to admit this as a woman because you feel bad, right? But it was just a horrible pregnancy.
It was hellish. The whole thing was, I know, I do feel bad. And it's like, I know.
Every woman, it's like magical times for every woman, but not
everybody. Like, and my midwife friend who came over yesterday to help me remove a bandage from, we'll go there, but a C-section I ended up having. She's a midwife friend, and she said she hated being pregnant. Like, I have met a few people who absolutely hated it, but mine was not just discomfort. It was like hell on my body. It was, for those who don't know, they should check out our Instagram, because how do they find us? Extreme Health Radio?
Yeah.
There's pictures and video of this giant uterine fibroid I had the entire time.
9 centimeters.
9 centimeters, which is like a very large, it's like an orange.
Like a big pancake.
Yeah, and it lays within the muscle wall of the uterus. So when I got pregnant, the thing would be pushed out. It's like I never got to see what it would look like in my body, because I had a pretty flat stomach, and it would be in there and it would cause some problems for sure, some pain.
Right.
But never in a million years did I think with pregnancy, I guess if you have it in the wall and you start to grow out, it's going to push out.
Right.
So this thing looked like basically like a pancake, or like, what would you say? It was almost like a dome.
Kind of like a dome. Yeah.
Coming up, and being pregnant with twins, my gosh, there's just like no room in there. Plus this giant fibroid is like being pregnant with triplets, really.
Right.
But that thing caused nothing but just wrecked me. I had 9 months of probably 7 months of severe depression and pain, and just trying to work through. I mean, it's almost like when people have, like, what is that thing that you get? Is it gout? Like your dad sometimes? And you can't even put a sheet on your toe or your foot.
Yeah.
Because and you think, how could that ever be? Because you're so sensitive. But the entire pregnancy was like that. So it's like I'd be in bed, and it's like you'd have to either come flip me because I couldn't do it, or and early on, I'm not talking because I was too big. I mean, because the fibroid would be like moving around with the uterus when it would like move around and contract, and the kids would grow and move. And I mean, it was tears almost every day. It was sleepless nights. It was having to sleep in one position and hope that I could actually get any sleep. And then during the waking time, it's like my whole entire body would just hurt. So anyway, the whole thing was
it was crazy, because you were just asleep or you were going to bed, and then you just dread the day because you'd be tired, and then you'd be dreading going to sleep again.
Oh, it was just dread. Yeah. It was like a dreaded, probably 7 months, the first couple months, and then alongside all of that, it was just all these other things. I got the flu, worse than I've ever had in my life, on like month 2. Yeah. That worked me, and I couldn't recover my ribs because of the coughing, and I broke both my toes. That was interesting.
And you got food poisoning.
I got food poisoning severely. Yeah. The fibroid would act up, and then it's like I had this laundry list of things. Like every month was like some new challenge, right? Right. And then here my body is basically growing these humans and then trying to deal with the pain. So anyway, it was hellish. So when we decided, when we found out they were twins, we were with an awesome midwifery when we thought it was a singleton and one baby. Right. And when we found out,
remember she did the
heartbeat
test
monitor thing.
Yeah, and she said, "Oh no, it's just one," and I just was like, "No way, there's two."
Yeah, you had a feeling there was 2, and you said, "Would that pick that up?" And she said, "Oh yeah," or I probably would, but yeah. And my hormone levels, when they did the initial blood work there, it didn't show anything abnormal of like, because sometimes it'll come back all weird, and they go, this either inconclusive because you have twins or because something's going on, or nothing showed that. But we had a 18-week scan. We were going to wait till 20 weeks just to do one ultrasound.
We just wanted to get one
just to make sure everything looked okay. And or actually, they wouldn't work with us if we didn't. They required that.
Oh, right. That's right.
That's why we did it, because we weren't going to do any.
We weren't going to do any, yeah. That's right.
So they sent us to like an outside place to do that scan, and we did it. And sure enough, she looked right at you, put down her thing, and said, "Is this the first scan you guys have had?" And we said, "Yeah." We thought something was wrong.
I immediately thought, "Oh my gosh, something is wrong." Like, she looked at me in all seriousness.
Yeah, you're like, "Does our kid have 2 heads?"
Gosh, yeah, what's going on? Yeah,
and she just said, "So this is the first time you found out you're finding out you're having twins?" And we're like, "Oh my gosh!" And you were like, I mean, you just always had a feeling. You knew it.
Yeah, I knew it.
I was kind of surprised and stoked and all that, but
I was wrong about. I thought it would be one boy, one girl.
Me too.
But, yeah, so when she told us that, we were kind of just reeling for a couple days figuring out, oh my gosh.
Weeks or months.
Yeah. Or whatever.
We're still reeling.
Yeah, we're still reeling. And so when she told us that, it was like just a whole different change. And then she said, did she tell us it was 2 boys?
Yeah.
She did. Okay.
At that point, they knew it was 2 boys already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we...
Outside of the pain and different challenges, we basically didn't sail along, but time just continued. And then up until basically the day before. So we've found this amazing doctor. If you guys want to have a home birth, which is what we were planning.
Thanks to 2 of our listeners.
Yeah, thanks to 2 of our listeners.
Who wrote in and called us and told us about this amazing doctor.
Yeah, do you remember who they were?
I have it in my email.
Yeah, it's really awesome. So this guy is, man, he is an amazing guy. So his name's Dr. Stuart Fishbein. Mm-hmm. And he is just the coolest guy. I would highly, highly, highly recommend
you
working
can find
with
him at birthinginstincts.com.
And then Dr. Stu's podcast. If you type,
Stu's podcast.
Just type into Google Dr. Stu's podcast.
Yep.
And he does a whole podcast. But he is a guy that's medically trained, medical doctor, and he's holding on to his medical license by a thread, I think, for dear life. But he no longer works in hospitals. So he's sort of seen the light, and now, or probably starting about 15 years ago, he started really educating himself about midwifery and natural childbirth and doing everything naturally. And
we're going to get him on the podcast, so it's going to be cool to have his story. But yeah,
he's an amazing, amazing guy.
Love him.
And just, so we found him
in LA, which is an hour and a half drive from us.
Yeah, which is super far.
But
we decided to do it, and I'm so glad we did. So we went up and met with him, and I was just sold immediately. He's just the coolest guy. Gives you a big hug.
Yep.
You know, just
he's one of us. You can tell he's just on the same page.
He's he's totally.
Yeah.
He just so happens to still have his medical license. But I mean, there's a lot of people on our show that have medical licenses. But so we found him,
and he's able to do twins and breech deliveries at home, which is unheard of because midwives aren't allowed to do that in the state of California.
They can't do breech? How do they know if they're breech?
The scan that they get before they deliver. I mean, if you're going to have a home birth, they require, like, a midwife will require that to make sure that they're able to deliver it, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, you're not able to do that. And neither is a birth center with the midwife. So either, whether it's at home or that, they can get really in trouble for that.
It's so crazy because when you listen to Dr. Stu and you listen to all of his experience, he does seminars, goes around the world and teaches seminars on, like, you know, what to do if the cord gets wrapped around the neck, or what to do if they're breech.
Baby. Like,
you know, it's like for him, it's just like no big deal.
Yeah,
it's
exactly. He could do it in his sleep.
Yeah, he does it in his sleep. And so it's crazy that, like, why don't we teach these things to people so that there's more educated and more able people to be able to deliver breech babies? Well, that's his whole
thing is the term they use is reteach breech. You know?
Yeah.
Because what do people do all these thousands of or millions of, however long we've been around, years with breech babies?
Totally.
Most of them probably came out okay. I mean, he thinks they can pretty much even deliver themselves, but yeah, anyway. Okay. Yeah, so we found Dr. Stu.
He's just incredible. So we went up there maybe once a month, I think,
starting in February. Yep.
Yeah, for the majority of the time, went up there once a month and, you know, talked with him and did blood work, and, you know, he's just an awesome guy. And so, then finally.
And unfortunately, to be fair, more scans than we wanted.
Right.
But, you know, we kind of had to go along with that. You just kind of pick your battles with twins and, you know, see their positions, make sure everybody's looking okay, measuring, not one's falling behind, all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, it's funny.
We had to let go. Even then, we had to let go of a lot and say,
gosh. Right.
You know, it's not ideal. It's not what we would do, but here you are. And you have to, like, you know, we could have chosen not to do it. We always have choice. They call it informed consent, you know, but also as a doctor.
Chosen not to do what?
Probably the scans.
Okay.
But then again, we might have lost him as our doctor because he also has a standard of care that he has to,
stick with.
He might not feel like he could take us on if we didn't agree to
because he would be going into a blind.
Right.
And then his license is on the line.
Of course.
If something happens. So there's like this balance of, you know, do you want the best medical / sort of holistic doctor, or do you want to, you know, or not, you know?
Yeah, or just charge right to a regular OBGYN hospital situation. Yeah.
And so we did go visit another OBGYN who was recommended to us.
Who was apparently more natural.
But my goodness, sitting across from his desk, I just felt so disconnected from him. He was just like,
his stress
compared
level
to
was
Dr.
through
Stu.
the roof.
Could you imagine him being our doctor?
No.
Like, that would have been just...
Yeah. And you know what he told me too? He said, I probably said this on another podcast, but he looked at me and he goes, because I said, I'm kind of I'm really a sensitive person. And, I'm just not sure about this pain, but I'd like to try it natural. I'm just kind of running some stuff by him.
You were saying this.
Yeah. And he looks at me and he's like, oh, the birth part's easy. He's like, it's all the other stuff that, afterward, that's like, when they're earthside, basically, when they come earthside, that's like when it starts. And I'm thinking, because he was basically just saying, oh yeah, we'll give it a try. And I'm all about vaginal birth. But, if you have to have a C-section, he went there really quick. Like, that's the easy part, I'm like thinking, dude, you don't even know what I've already been in pain for like 5 months at this point. Like severe pain, talking about the fibroid, and he belittled that, remember?
Yeah.
Oh, tons of women have fibroids. And I'm like, yeah, but are they not like,
I was just within
are they
minutes.
crying every day? Are they not sleeping? Are they not walking? Are they not like,
yeah, I was just over
anyway,
that guy.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah. I said, no, I'm not dealing with this guy.
Yeah.
So then we sort of, quickly and immediately got rid of him.
And then someone emailed the same day.
Oh, with Dr. Stu?
Yeah, that morning. Said, have you heard of, and this is a Canadian listener. She's awesome. And she's like, I don't live in LA, but I know about her. And then we had a midwife too from Antelope Valley.
Oh, right.
Say, have you heard of Dr. Stu? And then we kept hearing, and I'm like, okay, I got to look at this Dr. Stu character.
Yeah,
character. And he is.
He's now
man,
become a
I
good friend.
Him. He's a good friend. Okay.
Yeah. So that was cool. And then what else happened? So we just basically went once a month.
Yeah.
Oh, and then there was a period of time where he came down 2 times in a row to our house because what he does is he does an assessment of your home for a home birth. And so that's what the whole plan was. That's what Dr. Stu does is he works with women in their home. He no longer works in hospitals. And he was I think he was like, where did he get his
Cedars-Sinai? He's like he practiced at Cedars-Sinai.
Yeah, he won multiple awards, was doctor there for 25 years.
He's amazing. He's so knowledgeable.
But he, comes down to your house. So so this was pretty crazy.
We ordered the birth kit. We had everything, getting ready to do this birth at home.
Yeah. And so what was crazy was like, he came twice to our house, right? And the first time we invited all of our friends or not friends and family, but our family, because your mom and my parents were pretty much on board with the home birth, which is cool. They just didn't know much about it or whatever. And so, but your parents were really like, really nervous. Afraid and really nervous.
Very fearful.
Yeah, very fearful. And so...
AKA my whole life.
Right?
Leading up to...
Your whole life has been overcoming fears, you know that?
It has been. It's been overcoming fears and learning to let go, and everything totally works out for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, overcoming fears is I think that's why I'm here. But
I know, it's crazy.
A lot of freedom I'm finding.
So
we invited everybody to meet. It was
funny. There's like 4 midwives, our doula, Dr. Stu, my parents, Kate's parents, and a whole room. It's on our Instagram. There's a couple videos, but it was just so interesting. Your mom bringing up, her concerns, and it's so funny because her concerns were such like. It would be like how we could tie a shoe. They're so simple, but when you're not involved in that world, you know nothing about it. And so it was interesting. Like one of her things is like, what do you do, doc, if the cord's wrapped around the neck,
Because I had that with Kate's brother.
Because I had and Kate's doctor, he swooped in and he fixed it. And Dr. Stu is like so calm, and he's like, he's so calm. He's like, first of all, a cord wrapped around a neck is not a big deal at all because
it happens all the time.
A, it happens all the time. It's meant to do that. B, the babies aren't even breathing inside the womb. So, they're not breathing through their lungs. So it's not an issue at all. So the only issue is when they're born.
Can't get it off.
Yeah. And so he knows exactly what to do. And it's like, this is not even a problem at all.
Totally.
And, so that was cool. And then he went into like,
shut down. Everything is like her questions. He's like, and he fired back so nicely. He wasn't like a know-it-all, but he,
it was really cool. He started throwing out stats about home birth versus hospital birth. And he started throwing out information about like different countries and how, it's just.
Well, he had a paper published that he researched with a friend of his.
Did he?
Another doctor, who he mentions a lot on his podcast. But yeah, you guys can listen to that. But he gave us a copy of his paper. It's rad.
Oh, I should check that out.
Do we
have
cool.
a copy of it?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, good.
It's neat. But he talks about his studies out of 135 home births, I believe. But anyway, it's cool.
Yeah, no, it was just so cool. It was just so interesting because the room was filled with people who were excited and understanding and sympathetic and
supportive and
happy about it. And then there was your mom who was just like the only fearful person.
I know. And then even after that, it's like she jumped on board. God bless her.
Right.
But after this birth situation, she's like, I am so glad. Like she was just very like, I was still nervous and I didn't get any sleep. And
oh my gosh.
I thought, wow, if talking to a team of people who had faith in the situation can't put her mind at ease, then I feel bad. I mean, that was so stressful to her, but I thought that's hers to overcome, you know?
Yeah,
so anyway.
That's her deal. It's interesting when you're afraid like that and you're fearful because I think if you're fearful like of something or a person or a thing, you just have to continually over time. I think it's like a lifetime thing.
Yeah, I do too.
Like if you want to be a public speaker, I think you're totally fearful of it. I think you just have to do talks every week.
You throw yourself in.
You just have to do that.
Yeah.
Because if you take, 6 months off, you're going to be fearful again.
Totally. No, totally.
Some people aren't that fearful. Some people are just a little bit fearful and then they do it and then they're okay.
It's like flying, like you say. Like we don't like flying, but the more you do it, like it really does take the fear out of it. It's the people who fly like once every 10 years that are like, because they avoid it.
So that was cool. So they had, a couple times where Dr. Stu came down, and the second time your dad only was there, and because he was over anyway. And then so that was cool. And then then it was like at this point it was about a week out of giving birth.
Or the due
and then
date.
Dr. Stu said, for one, because one of the reasons why he came down twice was because it was getting to the point where you couldn't even, not just not drive, but sit in a car anymore.
So painful.
It was so painful. And so then.
And my feet.
Oh, your feet.
I couldn't even have my feet down because they swelled to twice their size. I was like, I have that and this stomach and this fibroid. And it's like, I can't even sit in a car. It was,
So then he says to us as he's leaving, we'll want to see you, Kate, up at the office next week or something. Mm-hmm. And next Thursday, if the twins aren't here by then.
Because that'd be week 40, be the due date. Right?
And I was just thinking, wait a second, why did he just say that if the reason why he came down twice already was because he couldn't get no car, how come he wants us to drive up there?
I know, I thought that was funny.
But then later we found out why.
Right.
And so Wednesday happens and Thursday we drive up there.
Well, I think what was interesting too is he said, come up next week, either Tuesday or Thursday, you pick.
Oh, really?
And I said I was going to pick Tuesday.
And all of this is really important.
Yeah, I was going to pick Tuesday. And I thought, I need
Why did you pick Thursday? Because we'd always been going on Tuesdays.
We'd always been going on Tuesdays. They were much better. I don't know, but I just felt like I needed to go on Thursday. I think because Thursday was one day off my due date. It was the day, one day before I was due. And I thought, I feel a little better going a little closer. Just so that if something happens, like I'm closer to him and I still have that to like look forward to.
Right.
So I said, hey, let's do Thursday. So I get a call on Tuesday morning and he's like, I had a really good friend whose mother passed away and he's coming into town.
Oh,
and I'd really like to be with him. So I'm going to go meet him in Vegas. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm due. Like I can't, this is my due date week. Like, I know. And chances,
and this is another myth, right? Let's dispel this other myth.
Yeah, let's dispel the myth that like all of a sudden you go into labor and you're screwed. Like your baby's coming now.
On TV.
Right. And you got to get to a hospital and it's, oh my gosh, if the doctor's not there, he said the average first time birther is going to be 14 hours. That's average. So where we live, Vegas is a 3-hour drive. The way he drove it the other day, I think was quicker.
Yeah, he told us.
Yeah. What did he say? He's so funny.
He was flying down the freeway.
He was flying down, basically. Yeah. That was hilarious. At like 3 a.m. or something.
Yeah.
So he, it was really interesting, the timing, because I thought, crap, like it kind of made me nervous, but I had to just trust. Like,
but then he made me nervous about a month and a half before that when he went to go to Portugal to go speak at a conference.
Oh my gosh, I know. And I'm thinking, I have twins.
And twins always come early.
Yeah, always come early. I'm at week 35 or whatever. And he said, anything before 36 weeks, I think you'd have to go to a hospital anyway. So I consoled myself with that, going, okay, I'm not out of options, but I can't have the birth I desire because midwives aren't allowed to do it. So
with twins.
So I was like, oh, Dr. Stu. So he makes it back, which he always does.
And then we made it out of that, and we're like, okay, cool. Like, because it would have been super reasonable and understandable had the kids come during that time. But he had a conference, he had to be there. So
he has a life and
had to trust.
We trusted, and then we trusted again. When he said he's going to Vegas, I thought, okay, well, at the most, it's a 3-hour drive. Like, whatever. He can get here, and the midwives would come down sooner, and our doula would come down. And
meanwhile, I was like, my whole thought process about that, with him being gone, was like, it's going to work out. Like, I just feel like these kids are divine and, everything's going to work out. So
that's the word you kept using, divine.
If he makes it in time or if he doesn't and we do it ourselves at home I was totally confident.
Yeah. You were more than me. I was wanting to be confident, but it's really hard when you're in your body.
Well, you're the one going through it.
Right.
So it's different. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was still asking people at this point, do you think I can do this? Like, because I don't doubt I can do it. I've suffered, like I think I have a high pain tolerance. But for me to keep asking the midwives and him at different times during our visits, like, do you think I have what it takes? And they'd say, well, yeah, and I'm like, well, I do too, but it's this fibroid. Like, everything is so different feeling. It's so, I mean, they couldn't touch my stomach at any point in the pregnancy without me like it tickled and it contracted and this giant fibroid would like ball up and like.
I would say the fibroid 9 centimeters to me, the way it looks in some of those Instagram photos, it looks like if you were to stack maybe 4 pancakes.
Felt like 18.
About the size of a pancake in terms of diameter. And then in terms of thickness, maybe 3 or 4 pancakes where it's just like, it's pretty thick, but it's sitting on the uterine wall. And so your uterus moves.
Right.
And so with the pregnancy there, like the uterus will move, but when you're not pregnant, you don't see it.
Of course.
But when you're pregnant, like you were.
Or you're pregnant, you don't have a fibroid and it moves and you just can't tell.
Yeah. You don't know.
You can't tell the uterus is moving.
But with this thing, it looks like a head was trying to stick out. Remember that?
Yeah. People thought, how cute.
And you're like, no.
I'm like, that's not normal, people. It looks like a baby's head is coming out of my belly button. Like,
so this whole fibroid thing is so interesting. We did the show we did with Dr. Massey was interesting about that.
Yeah,
and so,
yeah.
When we publish that show, make sure to listen to that one because he offers some really interesting insights
on like a spiritual level a reason why that could exist. But and now I have a new theory as well. We'll get to the birth story. But
do you want to his theory is really interesting too. Do you want to just say what his theory was, or I can say it and you can say
go for it.
So his theory was Kate was born. She's the second. She's a middle child. And her sister was born first. She was born second, like Jan.
Yeah.
Marsha.
It's all about everybody else.
That's it. That's Marsha.
Totally.
So she was the middle child, but in between her older sister and her was a brother that didn't make it, right? And how long did he?
My mom held him for a while. I mean, it was like 5+ months, which is pretty far.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she held him for 5 months and then he didn't make it, right? So did she?
She had to have a DNC or whatever they do. They go in and clean you out. Yeah, it's terrible.
Okay. So that happened. And then how many years later did you, you and Megan aren't that far apart.
No, we're only 2.5 years. So she got pregnant probably really quick again.
Not long after.
I think you have to recover a couple months.
And so, Dr. Massey we're sharing this with him and he was saying that like, of course your mom would have a lot of fear about whether or not she was going to be able to hold on to you.
Right.
And so as a result of that, what you did in the womb was help her create a super uterus.
That was interesting.
To be able to carry you.
Yeah.
And so as children, according to Recall Healing, you did the same thing. Because as children, we all carry the burdens of our parents. And so we create systems and things in our life to be able to carry that burden for them. And so that's why your body created, or maybe that's why you were attracted to a job that would expose you to chemicals that would cause that to happen. In a situation.
I know.
So it
was interesting.
Really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that show was, I loved that show.
So that was your body's way of honoring your mom.
Yeah, and it's so weird though.
And then I want to talk about the twin thing too, the boys.
Oh yeah.
So what was your theory? You said you had another theory?
Well, when we get into the birth story of why I believe that fibroid was still there and why I couldn't get rid of it. So,
good. Anyway. Yeah. So what's interesting too is that our boys are obviously boys and we have two twins. So it's interesting that your brother before you was a boy and I'm a twin of a brother who was stillborn. And it seems to make sense.
It really does. Like we have these little souls that whether they're, what you believe is like it comes around and they're the same little soul in a different body or it's just this replacement of what was lost.
Right.
It's
crazy.
I mean, it really does feel like God giving us back what was taken away from our families.
I know, right?
Yeah, to have these little guys are so cute.
So
they're in the other room, by the way. That's why we can't hear them. They're pretty quiet and they're with our babysitter. So
going back to Dr. Stu and you asking him if you can get through this.
Oh yeah, so I was asking and every time they would say yes, I was like, I want to believe. So I just kept going down the path of belief. But I did in the back of my mind always go, I just don't know how I'm going to do this. I have no energy. For 9 months, I've been in like agony, right?
You basically had 9 months of labor.
Yeah, it felt like it. Yeah. I felt like I had been contracting and laboring and in pain for 9 months. I mean, not to the extent of, those were pretty painful, but I'm sure labor is way harder. But it's more intense and it's quicker.
Well, remember when you went to the emergency room?
Yep.
And they said you were contracting then.
I was contracting. You're right.
You know, and
I was still 2.5 months out.
Yeah.
Prior to the birth. You're right. No, I was. It showed on the monitors every 4 minutes.
Crazy.
So yeah, I was contracting a lot of the time, like actual contractions. But then there was just that fibroid that would move, that would feel like, oh my gosh. Anyway, that got
thing,
gnarly.
There's got to be an energetic story to that, because that thing just stole the show. Because I think you could have, I mean, it's not, I mean, I really think you could have done a home birth without that fibroid.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing. I know what I'm made of.
Yeah. That thing was crazy big.
That thing.
I'm surprised you actually decided, and we'll talk about this, decided to do it.
Yeah.
To do that.
To go for the home birth.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this thing, but that's what I was going to say. Anytime anyone touched me, I'm like, they can't even touch me, like, and not have a problem. How in the world am I going to give birth at home? Like,
and then you couldn't get into certain positions, normal positions that other women could get into, because this thing would it would ball up, and it would be just contracting and tighten up.
This whole thing. There's a medicine ball, and there's all these ways, and I'm like, I can't even get onto the medicine ball. I can't even like get to I mean, I was like struggling just to get to the bathroom or sit down, or like.
Remember that time that everyone said go float, and you went to our friend's pool?
Oh my gosh! Yeah, get off your feet, go swim in a pool. So I go into a pool. It felt like every
par for the course of this whole thing.
We have a video of this too.
Of the
you interviewed me after I went to the pool, and I'm bawling. Remember that?
Oh, did I?
I'm like, why is everybody else able to float in a pool when they're pregnant and get relief? What happened to me? I get in the pool, and it felt like I was being stabbed with like 1,000 needles or knives into my stomach everywhere. Every nerve was like literally like on fire.
Wow.
And I just was like, I have to get out of the pool. Well, then I couldn't get out of the pool because like I'm already in pain, holding onto the side of this pool at my friend's house.
When
and she's in the kitchen.
She was in the kitchen.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to get out of here. Like, it was within like a minute. I just went in and was like, I can't do this. And then I had a hard time getting out.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm holding onto the side, trying to get to the stair. And then once I did that, I was like, I can't move fast at all, but I have to get out of this pool because it's like going to kill me. And as I'm exiting, it's like your whole bowling ball stomach just goes boom. And then you have this weight again. So you're like, you can't be fast. So I was like, it looked like I was trying to crawl out of like a crypt. It was like, I was like this dead person
walking. Remember that
walking.
show, Tales from the Crypt?
Oh yeah.
Like in the early 90s.
So cheese.
Yeah, man.
But so I got out of this pool, and I'm like, I remember holding it together until I got in the car. And then
Did you go in the jacuzzi after that?
Well, I didn't.
You didn't think.
I didn't think.
Yeah.
And you always hear jacuzzis in pregnancy. It's like the worst thing ever. It's like drinking. Yeah. So I get home, and you're taping me talking about this thing, and I'm like, what? I'm crying my eyes out saying, why can everybody else get relief? I can't even get relief in a freaking pool. Like, I was so mad. I was so mad and so disappointed. And I thought that was when I had my breaking point of like, what am I doing this home birth thing for? Like, I want to do this, but this is insane. How am I even going to, they have this inflatable tub that comes into your house.
Mm-hmm, which we bought.
Yeah,
no, we didn't buy that one. But
we didn't buy. We
bought the cover and stuff for it.
Yeah. And I'm like, there is no freaking way I can even like, I can't get into water. I can't lay down in water. I can't get on my like hands and knees in water. I can't do anything. And
the struggle was so bad internally. I could see it in you the whole time, because you feel like you have no choice. Like you're stuck in this situation.
I know way too much.
You know way too much. You know what hospitals stand for and what they are and how horrible they are.
But I believe in, what's best for me, what's best for the kids.
And you don't want to do the hospital at all. But then the home birth idea is like, that's not an option. It feels like it's not an option because of just your situation with the fibroid.
Right.
So
I kept
you
going
just feel
forward,
stuck. And so,
but I was still clinging to the lesser, like the more important to my belief system, even though, cause I'm like, you know what? I can always get transferred. Like, if my pain is just insane, like it's going to suck to have to try to get in a car and get transported.
Right.
But I'll do it.
Yeah, it's worth trying.
It's worth trying, because you're right. At least you could start there and go the other way. You can't start at a hospital
and go
into labor and then go to home.
Yeah,
you know? Like they'd be like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
But I do have to say, I found out with the pool thing, it was a temperature thing. It literally, and I had a friend tell me, she's like, oh man, we're gonna get solar powered whatever to heat our pool water because my nerves go crazy if it's even like 75 degrees. And I go, what did you say? And she goes, yeah, I have this nerve pain that will like hit me so intense if I go on anything cooler than like whatever she said, 79 or something. Mm-hmm. So I asked my friend what the pool temp was, and I think it was like in the high 70s.
Yeah, it was like 72 or
so
3, I think. Wasn't it?
No, it was higher than that.
Was it?
And I thought, oh, well, that's warm, you know? Well, then she heats up the jacuzzi to like a balmy 98 or.
Were you nervous going into the jacuzzi?
Oh, yeah. I thought
it would happen again?
I thought it would happen again. And thank God, because the last month and a half, or was that like 5 weeks, 6 weeks? I went every day almost.
Yeah, you went every day.
And floated. And
because that was your only relief.
Only. And I was only in 20, 30 minutes at the most. But
the issue with that was the feet swelling.
Right.
So
yeah, exactly.
That was the hard thing about that.
You're right. I was staying there forever.
It's warmer in there, so that's going to cause the swelling to occur more. But then also the angle, it's all about the angle, the mechanical angle of the foot.
Right.
And so when you're not draining fluid out of it, so if your feet are below your heart, it's going to be an issue.
And they're warm. It wasn't hot, but it was warm enough.
So it was like, do I take the foot pain and the swelling increasing more rapidly and get some comfort elsewhere, or do I not do that and be completely uncomfortable? So
all without poaching my babies.
Yeah.
I was like, guys, I can't make it too hot in here for you. But
yeah,
that was such a challenge.
But that was another thing that Dr. Stu and everybody else said was not a big deal. Like, people are so worried about. I think it's because women, you go
in 120 degree and they sweat and they're like about to pass out.
But if you're in 100 degree water, it's totally fine.
Well, and that's the water temp they do the birthing pools.
Yeah,
and
it's totally fine.
Yeah, my midwives and Dr. Stu are like, you're fine. Like, just don't get too like, listen to your body. It makes sense. Like, just don't overheat yourself and you're fine. You know.
So where are we at now? So now we're probably like.
So I made the appointment for Thursday.
Okay, that's right. We
decided not to do Tuesday. He goes to Vegas. Tuesday passes, Wednesday passes, and we're like, okay, great. Now he's home. I'm near my due date. Let's go. We'll go to this appointment Thursday.
And then we walk in on Thursday, and then he says the same thing.
We meet with him, and he's like, I'm going to go back to Vegas for a couple days, and if you go into labor, I'll make it back in time.
And we thought, oh my gosh.
We just dodged a bullet.
So probably some of you are thinking, like, why do you like this guy? Like why?
Yeah.
But the thing is with this kind of stuff is that, a due date, I think it's very low percentage of women actually give birth on their due date.
I was reading Mama Natural Stat, because she sends you, if you guys are pregnant or looking to join her newsletter. It's pretty cool. And then you get like a weekly update of what happens in your pregnancy.
Yeah.
But she gives the stats of being born, like actually delivering on your due date. It's very rare.
So Dr. Stu has a handful of clients or, women that he works with. And, if he were to stay home every time during this sort of like, elevated period
waiting
where a
time.
Woman, he would be waiting, he could never do anything.
Totally.
And so he's so confident in what he does and his team that, he does stuff like this, but it's like, he's never once had an issue.
No.
And I think
if anything, he's been at the right place at the right time for the right reason. I mean, I feel like he's just blessed by God.
Yeah, he's amazing.
He's so cool.
We both looked at each other in his office being like, oh gosh, like what a bummer,
crap. Now, and that kind of stressed me out again, but
yeah. But then it's like, again, it was like, how many times are we going to get the opportunity to let go of ideals?
Right.
That's the whole thing. It's like, I remember listening to, stuff back in my raw food days, like in the early 2000s of pregnancy and how important it was to cleanse and how important it is to, feed your baby breast milk and all of this stuff and, natural birth and
have
no
them
drugs.
On your body as much as possible.
And it's like, there's an ideal with everyone and then there's reality. Mm-hmm. And I knew as you get older, you start to realize that, you optimize your reality, but you can't optimize idealism.
Totally.
Because it's just, there's no possible way unless you want to set up yourself to live by yourself in a completely financially, have everything at your fingertips and be able to live alone and control everything you say and do.
Yeah.
Then you could do the ideal situation. Mm-hmm. But
no, you're right.
What you got to do is just optimize practical and optimize reality.
Yeah.
And so we've been given so many chances to let go of ideals.
I'll tell you what, it makes you so compassionate toward other people.
Oh my gosh, doesn't it?
And it gives you grace for people when you're like, and I just swear your judgment goes out.
Less judgmental for sure.
Way less judgmental.
And I knew all of this going in. Like, it's not like we're 20 years old and we're 40 years old. And, and it's like, I know that this is going to stretch me. And I knew exactly that this was going to do this.
Right.
And I was looking forward to it, so he tells us in the office and then we kind of look at each other and be like, oh man.
And then he says, let's go in and get some scan, let's check and see what's going on with the babies.
Yeah. And
we'll
everything was good. Everything's going to go well.
Right. And then, he did say that baby B, our little Ben, had, flipped from, he had started out a ton of times during the pregnancy. He flipped around. Yeah. Vertex breach. And so this time, the week before, he looked head down, ready to go. Perfect.
Ready to go. Everything's perfect.
He breached himself again. And I'm like, oh man, there's that now, you know, like, which I know isn't a big deal. And I was super confident in his skills, you know, but I was like, oh, that's just a bummer, you know?
Right.
So he did that probably a couple of days in between because we hadn't gone more than a week without the other scan. Probably.
Right. It was only a few days.
So it happened quickly. So then, he didn't like something when he listened on the monitor to Ben's heartbeat.
One of the heartbeats of Ben.
It's like a variable by like 20 beats.
Yeah.
I believe. So it was doing all kinds of kind of erratic.
And that was like the first time I'd seen him look like something was not right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he got serious,
really serious and was really like the tone of the room changed.
Yeah.
And he was like, all of a sudden I see on his face, he was very concerned.
Yeah, I know.
And then he told us what was going on.
He said he sent his nurse to go get this other machine to monitor.
Get more of a accurate description of what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just said, I'm sorry guys, like this home birth thing is out. You know?
He goes, this is such a bummer, but I can't let you go.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I can't let you even leave here. I don't feel comfortable with this. So we're going to send you straight over to St. Francis. Do you want my friend to come see you? Do you want to work with my doctor, Dr. Chiavari?
And the reason why is because baby Ben was showing signs of not being able to get enough oxygen from his blood. His heartbeat wasn't working correctly. Without contractions. Mm-hmm. So Kate wasn't contracting at all. So it would almost be like akin to if you were out of breath before you started the marathon. Because labor, if the average labor time is 14 hours or less, even if it's a couple hours, that's a lot of sort of external stress to the baby.
Yeah.
And so when you're showing signs of not getting enough oxygen,
when you're not in stress state or
when you're not even in a contracted state, that's, his concern was he's not going to handle labor very well.
Yep.
And so I was like, oh my gosh. So we drove up there on Thursday thinking to ourselves, okay, we got some errands to run afterwards.
We're going to go to get burgers.
I've got my sandals on.
Yep.
We're not dressed for anything. We're going to go, eat lunch and
go home and go grocery shop. The only thing I will tell people is
this was crazy.
I did have this inkling that like, what if something goes down at this office visit and we need to be up here?
Right.
I said, let's throw the other boxed car seat in the back of the trunk because we had only installed one of the car seats.
Right.
And I said, let's just put it in there. And so you threw it in the trunk and we went up to LA. So we had it.
And I thought, I wonder why, I thought to myself, I wonder maybe Kate has a feeling something's going to go down. Or
funny.
I said, oh, well, at least it's good to have it.
I guess I did just because I was like really near my due date. I thought, wouldn't that be funny if all of a sudden I went into labor at the office or I didn't think I'd be in a hospital though. So
Dr. Stu was like, I don't feel comfortable sending you home like this. And I'm thinking to myself, how did we get up here? Okay.
Well,
everything's fine.
He did say I could go home to my hospital. He's like, he goes, do you want to do that? Or do you want me to call my friend and see if he said he
was off that day.
Yeah. So he calls his doctor friend who works at St. Francis in LA and, he wasn't working that day, but he said, he came back and said, my friend will come in if you guys want to head straight there. And I said, because I'd listened to enough of Dr. Stu's podcast to know this was the person. If I was going to be in a hospital, he's pretty much, even though he's in a hospital, he's part of us, And
we'll talk a little bit later about how we found out about Ben's heartbeat.
Right.
That's a whole awesome story
in itself.
So
we ended up driving in an hour and a half traffic,
which is probably
Thursday
only
night.
4 miles away.
Yeah, it was 20 miles or something.
But it was
25 miles.
So long because of traffic, and we drove through.
And I'm in pain because I'm like, how I am in the car, and I'm like, I did not see this coming. I've already been sitting in the car for 3 hours.
I can't even turn the corner without you gasping for air.
I had to hold on to the bar in the car and just hoist myself if I saw a bump coming because it was so painful.
And that wasn't even contraction pain because you weren't contracting at all. No. It was just pain from regular pain that you've had the whole time from the fibroid.
Horrendous.
So we drive through this really ghetto area where we thought we saw someone walking through the street holding a gun.
Like 3 cars ahead of us.
Yeah, where you know how you're stopped at a light and so we couldn't go anywhere, but this guy was walking from the sidewalk in between the cars
pointing something.
It looked like a gun.
And we're like, oh, where are we?
Like, where are we? So we're trying to follow the directions to get to this hospital, and so we finally get there.
We got lost, we get there.
And so basically we go up into triage and the whole thing was like, oh my gosh, thank God I had my orange glasses from Blue Box.
And you wore them everywhere. I loved it.
And all the pictures I've got orange glasses
on. It's amazing.
But
thank you, Andy Mant.
It was just one of those things where you have your ideals, but you got to let go.
I know.
Thank God for medical intervention.
Right.
So, but then
and
at the
this
same
is
time,
us, we know it, but now we're like, oh, now we're the story.
But this is the thing with my whole life. Like, my mom shouldn't be alive.
Yeah.
She's had chemotherapy, radiation, surgeries. She's had bone marrow stem cell transplants, and she shouldn't be alive.
I know.
And every sort of statistic says that she shouldn't be alive. But then I'm looking at my mom having gone through the medical system 21 years ago, and she's still here.
I know.
So it's just like, it's
Who
really
are we
bizarre.
To say? I know.
If anyone's going to champion the idea to avoid hospitals and take herbs and live a natural lifestyle and avoid hospitals, it's me.
I know.
But then again, I have these instances in my life where these things are completely the opposite. So it's obviously something telling me that I got to continue to let go and not be judgmental of that. And so anyway, we go there and we go into triage, and they put these monitors on you, and it's just like the whole thing was just, it's so medicalized, and they're treating you like a patient. And every one of my worst nightmares in terms of how they're treating you, the lack of spirituality, the lack of understanding, like working with your body. It's just, get in this position because we need these monitors on you. And you were in so much pain, crying. And it wasn't until our doula came that gave us some other alternative positions to get in,
to prop pillows up and do something to comfort me.
And so they put these straps on you, and these straps are basically like belts. It's like belts with like little round monitors on you, like 3 or 4 of these things. And I'm wondering, like, are these things emitting EMF frequencies?
I know, they're right outside their little body.
What am I going to do? So,
I know.
And then they strap these things on you, and you're in so much pain because of the position. But then also,
I'm laying down in this bed at a weird incline where it's like almost like you needed to do a sit up, but you have no stomach muscles.
Yeah.
And my feet are swollen. Oh my God.
And you were laying on your side your whole pregnancy, so that wasn't a position that you were ever in. But it was like, get in this position. This is the position we need you in.
And that's the position I didn't get in because the fibroid reacts the worst.
Yeah. So if you can imagine, like a really pregnant woman,
I have a picture of it
with like belts on, like multiple belts, like 3 belts
wrapped around your belly tight,
and a fibroid that's underneath, in the wall of the uterus, pushing against the skin. And when the uterus would move, it would run up against the side of one of the belts and try to go underneath it. But the belt was so tight that it was preventing the fibroid from doing that, causing you so much pain. So finally, Jessica, our doula, helped us out.
But I even told the staff, because I had those on for 6 hours. And I said, is there any way we could take them off? Remember a couple times I was like, I just can't do this. I have to go to the one time I lied. I'm like, I have to go to the bathroom. I didn't have to go to the bathroom. I'm like, get these things off me.
Yeah. And Jessica was like, at some point, Jessica was like, you know what?
Our doula.
It doesn't matter. Like, this stuff, like, Kate needs to be in comfort.
Yes.
She needs to be. And I was the same way. It's like, I don't care about
whatever
these stupid monitors.
I know. And really 2 hours of monitoring his heart would have been fine. Like, why are we doing 6?
Yeah.
It was like, okay, he has a problem. Like, something's not right. So let's react here.
And why are we sitting around waiting for 6 hours?
That was terrible. Terrible.
So then Dr. Chiavari comes in.
Who was friends with Dr. Stu.
Who's friends with Dr. Stu. And he comes in.
Chiavari.
And is like an angel. He's like,
he was the biggest breath of fresh air.
Yeah. You ever wonder yourself, like, I always talk, like, you ever see those people that are in one profession, but they're sort of on their way out? Yeah. They're sort of like,
they're a foot in both worlds.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And doctors especially are, from what I've seen, I can't, sort of say all doctors are this way, but very prideful people. And they know a lot, and they've studied a lot, and they have a lot of book knowledge and, knowledge in their head. But doctors, so it's very hard for a doctor to come out of that.
Yeah.
And then also that's how they pay their bills.
Right.
So it's very like protective.
And they're so protective. They love to be seen in their white lab coat and stuff.
Totally.
He walks in like linen Bahama, like Tommy Bahama pants.
Yeah.
And like a t-shirt with like a skull, like a Dia de los Muertos shirt.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And did he have an earring?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just cool. That. It's like he He wasn't on call. It's like he wasn't working until he came in. He didn't show up in a white coat with a clipboard. He was just like, he looked like a friend.
He could be a yoga teacher.
Yes,
like
exactly.
He was so calm.
Calm.
And he was just explaining the situation and saying basically there's two options, obviously. It's just a vaginal birth. And he talked to
Dr. Stu about it too.
He knows Dr. Stu, good friends with him.
Right.
There's C-section, there's vaginal birth. And if you do vaginal, there's one of two choices. You can go there. You can go natural without drugs, or you can do it with drugs.
But we're going to have to induce you because they both said that they needed to end the pregnancy.
Yeah,
it needed to be done.
It had to be done because of Ben's heart. Mm-hmm. And so it was like, oh, okay, well, what do we do here? Because this is something that none of us planned for. It was like all happened within an hour.
Yeah.
Going to the hospital and figuring this thing out. And so he was just the coolest guy. And what a lot of people, if you listen to this show, realize is like C-sections is where the hospital makes most of their money.
Of course.
Because you can boom, boom, boom. Doctors can do it in their sleep. It's an easy surgery. And it's the most profitable. Insurance pays the most on it. And it's always something that you're going to be, recommended. Because I think that like, a huge percentage of women that go into hospitals get recommended C-surgeries or C-sections. But if you don't go to the hospital, obviously a lot of those women don't need them.
Right, exactly.
But it's an easy way out.
Right.
And
everybody gets paid.
Everybody gets paid.
Quick. Right.
Yeah, you're looking at $8,000 C-section surgery, and hospitals make a ton.
And what did he do?
And he was recommending vaginal birth.
Yeah. He didn't care. He said he would do either, but he was so pro vaginal birth.
Yeah, he's really cool.
He would have rather.
And he's a doctor who's having like it's like having a midlife crisis.
Yeah,
he's sought out midwives and sought out Dr. Stu, and he's in this process where he's just like in two worlds, and he was the most calm person ever.
He was amazing, so he did say though, the induction could end in a C-section anyway, and it would probably be 12 hours to 48 hours of having to labor.
And we already knew that
even see if it would progress.
So you could do the labor, but then if Dr. Stu and Dr. C's opinion was Ben's heart is not going to handle labor.
With every contraction, you're going to have to...
It's almost like you have your choices being made for you.
Yeah, I felt like it.
Unless you wanted to just sort of hope how he would do if he was already losing oxygen. Without contractions. I mean, how would he handle 48 hours or 20 hours or 10 hours of labor?
So here's where the fibroid story to me is where it ends. Like, because I had done so much work to try to shrink this thing all these years. I decided not to have surgery. I prayed it away. I had people do all kinds of energy work. I mean,
Reiki, cannabis.
Reiki, nothing would work.
Yeah.
Nothing. So
cannabis we didn't give a full try.
Yeah, but that was hilarious. That choice was made for me too. I tried it three days in a row and found out I was pregnant.
Yeah.
So it's like that was taken away. I couldn't even after 15 years of having a fibroid, the minute I tried to do something natural about it.
Finally bought the cannabis and it got delivered, and you finally tried it.
Ridiculous. So anyway, the fibroid made me so. I mean, obviously at this point, I'm done. I'm like, I can't suffer anymore.
Well, you've had 6 hours with those belts on you,
And 9 months of pain. I just I tap out. I'm like, it had to have been, the fibroid situation.
Even if you could have dealt with that pain though, it still would have been good for Ben.
It wouldn't have been good and that's why I was like, it wouldn't have been good for Ben, and it wouldn't have been good for me. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm done with this whole thing. Let's just get everybody out safe. And so almost immediately you said, you said I had my mind made up, and you were fine with it. And we were like, neither of these are good options, but we're going to just do the C-section.
And what's interesting too, is that we have in our family line, a birth, your brother, your older brother that didn't make it, and my twin brother that didn't make it. And I'm wondering if there's some issues. So it's funny that we relive some of the traumas and or challenges from our parents
and overcame them in a different way.
Yeah. And that's our role, is to carry those burdens. And so wouldn't it make sense that we would be faced with that decision, and that these would be twins? And so
in the back of my mind too, only one time, the whole pregnancy, I was like, oh, nothing's going to happen to either of them. They're going to be fine. And then this was very odd to process, but I remember at one point, contemplating the C-section and thinking, okay, Ben needs to get out quick, quickish. And I had this psychic reading a long time ago, and by Laura Lee. I love her. I saw her on Gaiam one time, and had just for fun, kind of New Year's thing. And she ended up being so helpful and just a beautiful person. But she had said that she sensed that there was a twin thing, and she goes, I don't know where I'm getting this from. And I said, oh, well, my husband was a twin. This is like 4 years ago. And she goes, oh, okay. And she said, yeah, I was almost going to say that I could see twins for you guys, and maybe that's the case. But yeah, I said, my husband had a twin, but he didn't make it. She goes, well, I really hope that's not the case with you, because I only see one blue color between you guys.
Oh.
And she thought we were just going to have one boy. And she goes, I really hope this doesn't happen to you. And I was like, oh gosh, like what's she saying? Am I going to be pregnant with twins and not have a twin? Or
wow.
It was very odd. It was very interesting. But that went through my mind. I thought, is something going to happen here at the last minute? Like, and we're going to like relive this nightmare that your mom had with you. So anyway.
Oh, that's the first I've heard that.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Wow.
You can listen to that. Go back and listen to her recording. It's Trip.
No, but for you thinking that's crazy.
Isn't that weird? So that stuck with me all this time. I thought for somebody with her abilities and kind of intuition to say something like that, it came back to me. But so anyway, we decided to do the C-section, and he's like, I'll go check the operating room, and we'll so he goes, and I'm finally off those dumb monitors. He comes back at some point and says, there's like 2 people ahead of us. It's going to be a couple hours. So at this point, we're Thursday evening. We've been there, and we're like, this is going to happen on our due date. It's Friday the 29th of June.
The actual due date?
Yep. And we're like, funny. This is so funny. And I kept saying, good thing we have the car seat,
I know.
And we're like, we're going to have kids tonight. And we looked at each other like, this is crazy.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah.
It was cool. So then, they finally get the operating thing set up. It's you, me, and our doula. She's contacted, and we've contacted all our parents, say I'm getting ready for surgery. I have to say the piece I had about it was bizarre. I'm not a hospital person. I'm not a surgery person. I'm not a needle person. Everything about surgery sounds absolutely horrible to me, but it's like this peace washed over me. I was like, I just knew I had to do this. And we both were fine. It was so weird.
Yeah, to me, it's like
oddly fine.
It's just an opportunity to surrender and to lose your idealism and to step into something that's unknown, and that's what growth is all about. And ultimately, when you think and you let go, you just realize that like no matter what the actual mechanism is, the outcome is going to be what it needs to be. Right. And so, so it's
I think they're too quick to do emergency quote C-sections.
Oh yeah.
So that's the thing. I'm like, but there are, I'm one of those people who had a medical intervention that I believe ended up being a really good thing. Same with Rob Haley and Melissa when we interviewed her.
Yeah, she had the same thing. Yeah.
And she didn't plan on this at all, but all her amniotic fluid dried up, and her midwife's like, oh my gosh.
Because she went overdue.
We got to get you to the,
She's 2 weeks overdue, right?
Had to have a C-section, yeah. So anyway, these things happen. So anyway,
so it's just interesting, like our sort of idealism and our beliefs are being challenged, and these kids are coming in, and that's an opportunity for us to overcome the things that happen to our brothers, and so it's just crazy how that works.
I think on so many levels, I'm going to be processing this for so long.
Yeah, totally.
There's so many lessons and things I've already journaled like 8 pages yesterday, and it was like not even the tip of the iceberg,
Wow. Yeah.
So anyway, I get ready, we get prepped, all that stuff. Finally, it's Friday morning at 2 something. 2:51
and 2:52.
Well, they wheeled me away at like 2, I think.
Yeah.
I go in there, they let you in at the last minute. You have your scrubs on. You looked cute. You had your orange glasses.
I did my blue blocks. I'm hardcore, man.
Oh my gosh. You're like, if I'm going to be in this hospital, this fluorescent's not going to take me out.
I was telling you earlier about how I was telling Dr. Stu about blue light and DHA and melatonin and stuff like that.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And you're cutting edge.
I'm cutting edge.
So yeah, sweet Dr. Chiavari gets me, they're in there. They did a great job. Like they call you in, like 10 minutes? No, maybe 5 minutes. It wasn't very long.
I wasn't there
when you got up on my head, and then all of a sudden we heard the first cry, and we're like, oh my gosh, that was weird. And that's a whole other topic. But basically the babies were born at 2:51, 2:52 a.m. on our due date Friday morning. They said, hey, Dad, come over on this side. And so you left me, which you didn't want to do, but you had to go see the babies. And
so this is where I was so concerned, because I didn't want to leave the babies alone at all.
To see,
because I don't want them vaccinating them. I don't want them giving them a shot.
Goop in their eyes.
Or goop in their eyes. I don't want them, doing anything to the babies. But yet I've got to leave you, which I didn't want to do. And then I'm going to one of the kids, but yet when I'm doing that, I'm leaving you and the other kid. And then I go to the other kid, then I'm leaving the previous kid and you still.
I know.
And so it was like this.
There was a whirlwind.
It was a whirlwind. And as I walk back over to you, I look in the bucket and there's the placentas. So I'm like, okay.
Which we had requested.
And I said, oh, the mental note, there's the placentas.
So you saw them?
Yeah, I did. And then I came back, was with you, but I didn't want to leave them for any second, So it was just like, wow, it was just so fast.
Yeah,
you know,
no time
and,
to process.
you know, when they took one of the kids, it's like what I didn't like is they separated them, you know, immediately they're separated. They're by like 20 feet. And they're wiping them down and all this stuff. And there's like 3 or 4 people on each kid. It was just crazy how like medicalized this whole thing is. You know, it's like 2:00 in the morning with bright blue lights. No wonder why they're
And you could have the
crying.
best. I mean, he was the best doctor in the best case scenario.
But even
that he can't control. Like,
if he understood light, he could do it as in red light,
Right.
but it's not his hospital. It's like he's got to work there.
No, he still had, and he had to have a team of people that would, you know, attend to your kids. And I mean, and it was a bummer because there's so many things now that I'm like, oh, like we had talked about maybe doing like a vaginal, like wash over them afterward, however you do that, you know, to try to give them, and like all of that was just gone. I was on a drug trip, like in my mind. You left and I like went to a weird place in my head.
Yeah, you were.
I felt like I was on an acid trip. It was the weirdest thing ever.
Yeah, you died.
I felt like I did. I went through a tunnel. I saw small people. I saw things on the ceiling swirling around. They were little people.
The little people.
It was strange.
Yeah.
So that was weird. And then when I finally woke up, and I was throwing up in a bucket, and I remember the guy suctioning me. I remember my arms going numb, which is weird because it's supposed to numb you from like the waist down.
Right.
And I also remember having the world's worst headache, and I kept saying, "Is this normal? Is this normal?" And the anesthesiologist was like, "Yep." And then he sticks something in my mouth to like get my bile throwing up out of my. And it was weird. It wasn't fun. It's not like I expected. I wasn't present at all after I heard them cry. And you left. I went into like you could have. I could have been
slapped
dead.
you across the face and you wouldn't have known. Huh?
Oh, I wouldn't have known anything. I mean, I could have.
It's so weird. It's weird because
they think it's because my blood pressure dropped a lot and I just went on like a weird trip. Mm-hmm. Oh, weird.
See, the thing is like, I don't think that this could have been an option in terms of, I think Dr. Stu and everybody else was accurate in their assessing Ben and his heartbeat.
I do too.
But I think that I wouldn't put it past people to make bigger deals of certain things in order to recommend a C-section. So you can put more drama on something or more fear on something in order to get that C-section to happen. I mean, that's kind of what the medical industry does anyway, is they sell you fear. And so like they're scaring you this, that, and the other to take their drugs and everything else. So it wouldn't surprise me at all that hospitals would do that as well, or regular OBGYNs. But in this case, Dr. Seuss, like we know him so well now.
Trust him 100%.
Yeah, he's just great. So I don't think that's what was happening here.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't surprise me at all. I have no proof of this, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if that happened.
Yeah.
You know, in other situations or something.
Right. No, I'm sure. You're probably right. It was weird.
And so the birth happened. We went to another room, and then I was able to hold them skin to skin.
That was good.
Yeah, that was really good.
That was really good.
And
they're cute.
And then the rest of the time was just recovery process, right?
Yep, the recovery process was bizarre. The hospital was
staff was
subpar. Some were amazing. I mean, it really is all about, you know. And I've always heard this with my friends and people I've known throughout the years that have, you know, been sick and been in hospitals, and they always say, and it's true, the nurses make or break your whole experience. So once you're out of the doctors, you know, out of the surgery, it's the nurses that are going to be dealing with you. And those are a whole other, it was not a fun time in the hospital. And there was things that
they're very condescending,
very like, it just wasn't anything we would have loved. It was
complete
very
lack of
not
spirituality.
Nurturing. Yeah. They took Ben away for the night because he had a low bilirubin count, and that was out of my control, and I was still drugged up, and I was like, they just took my kid away.
That's crazy.
Who knows what happened? I mean, I'm trusting they didn't shoot him with anything, but it's like, I mean, talk about letting go. I had to like, you had to run home to get a bunch of stuff, and all the stuff was going down at the hospital. I mean, it was nuts. It was totally nuts. Utter chaos. So then, you know, and here we are just trying to survive. And so we were only there 2 nights.
Yeah. It felt forever.
I think he totally signed me off early because he's like, I know you don't want to, he said he was going to release us, or we could break free, or what did he say?
Well, he said, he said to us, so yeah, if you're, you know, typically like the doctors need a lot more for you to leave, but you know, if you want to escape,
that's what he said.
Then,
if you're ready,
I'll sign off for you. Jeez. I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. Because all we wanted to do is get these nurses off our back so that we could nurture our kids the way that we want to.
And they're feeding them formula. We're like, it's everything we haven't wanted. I mean, it was just like unreal. And we're emotional because we haven't slept. I mean, I'm recovering from major surgery, the whole thing. So anyway,
so if you can do your birth out of a hospital, I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, thanks.
You know, for the kids and for you.
Yeah.
You know, because I really envision this as being a spiritual time and just a growth experience. And
if, God forbid, something happens like this, their spiritual time is when they came home, and they're loved, and it's going to be okay. And
it's going to be okay.
We're going to do things, and I'm breastfeeding. And it's like things are working out, but yeah. So basically, we didn't want to leave.
Well, one of the things I got to make sure that we get is Lactobacillus plantarum.
Oh, that's right.
That's the beneficial strain of bacteria that
they missed coming down the canal.
Yeah, we got to make sure we get on that.
It's good you found out about that, actually.
Okay, so what were you going to say?
Well, we have to be done in 15 minutes.
Okay.
10 minutes. Okay. I don't know if we can finish the story.
I can finish the placenta.
So basically it's Sunday at this point. We were getting checked out. We need to leave, but we realized, and this whole time, for 2 days, we've been asking about our placenta. And they said, it's in some other building, locked up. We're going to try to,
it's
whatever.
It's in pathology.
It's in pathology. It's been sent to pathology.
Yeah.
So it's Sunday.
So the main issue is that it happened on a Friday morning.
Right. And we needed to get it to our encapsulator. We wanted to send it home with our people that were going to do it.
Within 3 days maximum.
Right.
So,
and at this point, we're not hearing anything. No one's getting back to us. And it's Sunday. We're about to be discharged. And
the cool thing is that we have the whole team of midwives, Dr. Stu and Dr. C, to text with. He gave us his phone number, so we're texting with the doctor.
And we're not getting anywhere. And Dr. Stu says to you in a text, if you have to, get aggressive, like it's your property.
He said, "This is ridiculous. That's your property. I know you're really nice people, but if you have to, get aggressive." Yeah. And so I had that in my mind. And so,
but it's Sunday. We heard that pathology was closed. And you're like, I'm going to fight for it.
I talked to our doula, and she said that, okay, so you can't wait till Monday because it's not going to be viable. It's going to start losing enzymes. If it grows bacteria on it, you're going to have to pay the midwife to do some extra testing on it. And she might do the testing and it might not be viable. It's gotta, so she said it's really important that you get this.
It can't be put in formaldehyde at this point.
Yeah, it can't be put in formaldehyde. So you got to make sure and get this thing. So I'm like, okay, all right, like we can't get this thing tomorrow. It's got to be today. So I walk over. So I leave you in the hospital and I walk over and I'm just praying to God, like, God, I don't want this to be a fight. I'm just too tired. But I need this thing. And so I can't fight. So I'm walking over there and then you're praying for me as well as I leave. I didn't know that, but I
prayed that you would have favor.
Yeah, and so I'm walking over there, and I just was praying that, and then I just was thinking about that scene in Star Wars where, Obi-Wan Kenobi is with Luke Skywalker, and they're driving that thing across the desert, and they're trying to get into that area, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi sort of like waves his hands, and they repeat what he said.
He brainwashes them, and he gets through.
And I just thought, okay, I'm gonna do something like that, and so anyway, I go to the thing, and where's pathology, and they say, why do you want to go to pathology? Oh, I'm working with Dr. Fishbein or something, or no, not
Chiavari.
No, the other doctor, Garshfield, I think his name was. Yeah. And so I'm, and so anyway, I got to get up there, and they reluctantly let me up. Before that, I went to triage.
That's right.
And she kept telling me hospital garbage, just like, this is policy, sorry, this and blah, blah, blah. And so finally I'm like, okay, where is it? And she said, pathology. I said, okay, I'll see you later.
I will track down pathology.
There. I'm done with you. And so, by the way,
you are dead to me.
I couldn't even get up to triage. Remember, the security wouldn't even let me up there.
I remember that.
And so it was just like one thing after another. Security wouldn't let me there.
So many
obstacles.
Oh,
security wouldn't let me up to triage. I went up to triage. They gave me the runaround, but they told me pathology had it. So then, I went over to pathology and they didn't want to let me up to pathology. So finally I got up to pathology up in the other building, walking around, wandering the halls, trying to find this thing.
Which isn't even open really, right?
Not even open on a Sunday, but there's people there working, doing their labs and stuff. So I must have talked to probably 8 different people there. The director, the head boss guy, different ladies that came in that we had to wait for the specific lady to come in. And every person I talked to was wondering why we want this.
Looking at you cross-eyed.
Looking at me cross-eyed, just saying, sorry, we can't do anything. And one lady went to go look for it and she couldn't find it. It's like, you kind of have to come tomorrow. There's nothing more we do. So I meet up resistance like 8 times, and I'm just explaining to them why I need this and this has to happen. So finally I got on the phone
with the head of
pathology of that hospital.
Who's not even there. He's at home or something.
He's at home.
Right?
Yeah, it's a Sunday. He's, doesn't need to be there. So I'm on the phone with him and we must have talked for 10 minutes. And so I'm talking to him and I'm just explaining. And then he says his whole spiel. So the first thing he says to me is like, hello, this is Dr. Garshfield. Let me tell you how this is going to go down. And he's talking with like this really deep baritone voice.
Let me tell you how this is going to go down.
Yeah, those were his exact words. Okay, hey, this is Dr. Garshfield. Let me tell you how this is going to go down. And he just gives me the hospital policy. It's just crazy. And what Dr. Stu said later was it's only hospital policy because it's untapped revenue. If they can send it to pathology, they can get labs done. Labs cost money. It's just untapped revenue. Anywhere the government or hospitals can somehow get in the way of two humans interacting, it's revenue, potential revenue. And so I understand all this. I understand how this whole thing works, right? Yeah. So I'm talking to him and he's giving me these spiels like, sorry, there's nothing we could do. It's gotta, it's gotta be read from the labs. I gotta get the slides. The slides are sent off to some other company. In fact, I don't even know if the slides exist yet, but they're going to be ready tomorrow morning. Just come back tomorrow morning.
I can't.
And so I just explained over and over. And so I said the same response, which was...
You were super nice.
I was super nice. And the same response was, okay, I totally get this is a weird request. I have the paperwork here, and I'm willing to sign any and all paperwork that absolves you and the hospital of any responsibility, legally or otherwise. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get the placenta. And I understand it's totally weird. Thank you for taking your time off on a Sunday and talking to me about this. And I understand where you're coming from. I don't want you to lose your job. I get it. Your reputation's on the line. The hospital's reputation is on the line, because one of the things he was saying was we can't let something leave the hospital that could have live pathogens in it, like tuberculosis or, it's made up stuff, right?
Well, and by the way, it's hospital to hospital, because we had a friend that they just threw it in a bucket and the thing and she walked it right out.
Yeah, it's just words designed to get you to not be able to have what you want.
Right.
And so our doula was saying before we even started all this that she gets her placentas all the time and blah, blah, blah. And I've heard nothing but the opposite. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I don't think this is going to be the way you're saying. And so when I came up against all this, I was like, I knew this was going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
And so he's saying we can't let something, leave the hospital premises if it has live viruses in it, pathogens, and we don't get the slides. Slides aren't coming back till Monday. And so he's saying this whole spiel. And so I said to him the same thing. I get it. I understand. I don't want you to lose your job, your reputation, the hospital. I don't want any legal lawsuits. And
I just want my property.
And I said, and how do we get this? How can we get this today? And then he would go through his whole spiel again, hospital policy.
So you talked to him for like how long?
I probably talked to him for a good 10 minutes on the phone. And so finally he says to me, after I repeated the same thing I said all the time, he says to me, okay, well, all right, I'm getting nowhere with you. So I don't normally say this to people, but if you want to go over to administration in the legal department and get them to sign off on this placenta, I'll do it. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to do it under duress, and I'm going to tell them the same thing I'm telling you, that the hospital's going to be liable, and my job's going to be liable, and I don't recommend that you do this for this person. And I said, oh, okay, cool, thank you.
That's all I need. Oh,
that's awesome. Okay, so legal, and then so I hang up the phone with him, and I asked the other people who were there, okay, where's legal and where's
risk
administration?
Management, yeah.
Right? And so they say, okay, administration's on this floor, legal's upstairs. Okay, so now I got to go hunting and go walking around. So I walk around the halls all over this hospital, and I finally find legal, and I look in the thing, and they're closed. Now, of course they're closed. It's a Sunday, right? So I'm like, all right, God, do I even go up? If they're just going to be closed too, do I even go around to try to find administration? So I go and I walk around and around and around. I finally find this desk of these people working. And I see these signs for administration, and I'm like, where's administration? You go, and she said, oh, that's nursing administration. They're not here today. Like, yeah, well, looks like we're gonna have to wait till tomorrow. God's gonna have to keep that thing alive for
and
us.
Non-formaldehyde.
And I said, so this is the nursing administration? And they said, yeah, they're closed today. And I said, oh, okay, what about the hospital administration? And she goes, oh, they're up on the next floor up. I'm like, oh, okay, they're on the next floor up. And they asked me why I want it and tried to prevent me from going up there. And I finally just walked away from them and took the elevator and just went up.
Good one.
And then so I'm walking around the halls, and I see this one guy. Like, there's no one in there. It's a Sunday. And I see this one guy walking around. He goes, hey, can I help you? Because I've got same clothes I had on with Dr. Stu on Thursday.
Right.
And so I see this guy, and I think he was a worker there, but he was in plain clothes. And I told him, I said, yeah, I'm working with Dr. Garshfield in pathology, and I need to talk to hospital administration staff. Is there anyone here that on a Sunday I can speak with? And so he walks me to a room, I walk in to this sort of wing of the area where there's all these cubicles and other office rooms and stuff. And so he leads me to this lady who's having a conversation in her office, an Indian lady, who's having a conversation with someone. And so I interrupt. I'm looking like a bum with my clothes, you know? So I start explaining to her, that the situation, she's looking at me just cross-eyed. Like, who is this person? You know, like I got stuff to do. What's this all about? So finally I'm like, okay, I get and I understand that this is, you know, I've been meeting resistance, just fighting through resistance and saying, okay, I understand everything here that's going on here, and how do we make this happen? We need to make this happen. This is my starting place. We're not leaving here until I get this thing. But I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, I get you and I get me. The only thing is it's diametrically opposed to each other. So let's get creative. How do we make this happen? So I'm explaining to this lady. I finally said to her, like, I understand this is a weird, odd request. You probably never had a request like this before. And it's just, I understand what I'm asking for is very strange, but it is, I told Dr. Garfield this too. It's our property.
Right.
By the way, just so you know that it's our property. And that's when he said, well, okay, I'm getting nowhere with you.
Argue with, yeah.
You know, if you go talk to administration, I'll sign off under duress. And so I'm telling this lady, I'm having a really, like, I just said that this is a weird request. I get it. And I hear this voice from behind me say, no, that's not an odd request. And I'm like, what? This is the first person in like 10 people that have been at all sympathetic or even understanding to what I'm saying. And she goes, oh, that's not an odd request. I look back behind her, and it's this tall woman, blonde woman who, I don't know, she was not even supposed to be there that day, I found out later, but she was doing rounds, and she was already started doing her rounds, so she wasn't even supposed to be in that office. She came back to get some paperwork that she forgot to take. And she just so happened to walk in at the exact time that I was saying that that's a bizarre request. So this was like, I'm still almost getting teary about this. And so she goes, oh no, we just had someone last month ask for this. Man, almost like breaking up. And so it's just so emotional, you know?
I know.
And she goes, oh, did Dr. Chiavari do your surgery? It's like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, how do you know? And she goes, well, oh man, she goes, how did you know? And she said, oh, well, he's very progressive. He works with midwives, and we just had a patient like this last month. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, it was like you finally, it was like you running a marathon, because I was gone for an hour and a half dealing with all this.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're just like, it was so crazy.
Well, because you just like,
oh my gosh, I can't believe it was just like, it's still so emotional.
I know.
You know, and it's like, I've just been resistant. So like 8 or 9 people all giving me the hospital protocol, and they're like bullshit, you know, protocols or whatever.
It's like and you're so tired, and you just had this angel show up out of nowhere. Yeah,
and it's like, and she goes, oh no, I'll take care of this. Let's go. So I walk over to her office. She walks me down this long hallway. We're chit-chatting and talking, and she makes a copy of the form, or the release form that we signed, and she asked for your name, and she says, oh, congratulations, twins. That's so great. And at one point she goes to me and she said, I know what you're saying. Like, if I were having babies, I'd want my placenta too. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, finally someone that understands. And so she says that she'll take care of it for me. And then we walk out of her office, and who shows up? One of the ladies I was speaking to in pathology. Because she was the lady that she was going to do the walkthroughs with. And that lady was like, I don't know about if we should do this, and trying to talk her out of it. And she goes, but are you sure you're willing to release it? Because they haven't looked at the slides. And she goes, oh, so Dr. Garfield hasn't looked at the slides yet?
And you're thinking.
And I just thought, oh my gosh, we lost it. Like, oh, I just did all this work, and I thought I had someone sympathetic to me, and we just lost it. And I said to her, you know what, we'll sign any paperwork we have to sign. I don't want anyone getting into trouble here. Like, I will do anything we have to do to get this placenta. And so she goes, you know what, let me send a text to so-and-so Chapman or someone else. And, and she goes, let me think about this. And the other name, I think, was Karen, of the lady she's talking to. She goes, Karen, did you blah, blah, blah? She goes, you know what, let me think. If we ask so-and-so and then they talk, I think we can do this. She goes, anyway, just go back down to your room. Give me your room number. And
I had to sign something.
And I'll see what I can do. And then finally she comes back and says, you know what? Congratulations. She came in our room.
Within like a half hour, she had it down there.
Yeah. And it was just like,
and she
oh
talked
my
to us.
gosh.
She's like, twins. And I would do the same thing. She's like, I don't think it. She said again, I would totally get my placenta.
And guess what her name was?
Just trips me out.
Celeste. Which means angel. I mean, it's just insane.
Just heavenly.
And so you're saying that like, you know how like in the Bible it says you entertain angels without knowing, you know, maybe she was just an angel. You know,
it really does. I know, it's so emotional.
And so one of the final things that we'll close with is what we found out as a result of getting the placenta that we wouldn't have known.
Yeah. So Jessica, our doula, passes it on to, I know, she passes it on to like the encapsulator lady. I don't know why it's so hard to talk about.
It's crazy, huh?
Yeah. And the encapsulator lady ends up telling her, and she sends an email or a text to us and our team, and she's like, basically says the cords were not attached to the placentas when they left and got, you know, like encapsulated. But she said in one of the cords, and they don't know whose it was, but we totally know it's Ben, that there was like what they call a true knot. Mm-hmm. That's something that's like a really, really tight, small knot, and not just like a, you know, you think like a knot in the cord, you think more like a bigger, like a soft pretzel kind of thing, you know, where it's wrapped. But it was a really small, tight knot.
Tight knot.
And the whole reason why his heart rate was dropping anyway had, you know, we not even known that. It's not like it just confirmed everything. It's like, it was the right thing to do the C-section. It was the right thing to, you know, Dr. Stu said, yeah, if that was the case and that was baby B's cord and placenta, like it would have declined very quickly for him. Like
even in a hospital, even in a vaginal C-section, it would have been, or not a C-section because it would have caught
an
that.
induction.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been good. And with each contraction, it could have been really bad. So, I mean,
he was talking stillborn.
Yeah. My midwife friend came over yesterday to help me remove some gauze and bandages on my incision area. And she said that too. Yeah. Babies with true knots are often stillborn. So, you know, it's like here we have that recall healing thing come back around again where, you know, that probably was what happened with your brother. Didn't make any sense why he didn't make it with your twin. And
right, I know.
We could have relived that whole thing. And I just feel like just the hand of God.
And all of it was so like everything. If I had talked to Dr. Garsfield for 5 minutes instead of 10, I would have missed that timing. And even
Celeste
if that,
not been, I mean,
Celeste could have walked in at a different time in my conversation where I wasn't saying those exact words.
Yeah, she could have thought you were just having some meeting with this lady and...
You know, or if we'd seen Dr. Stu on Tuesday instead of Thursday.
The whole thing.
I mean, it's just...
The whole thing. And that's where I want to, you know, talk about it more on other podcasts. But my prayer with this whole thing was to have like a gentle birth. Yeah. And you don't think C-section is being gentle, and this recovery has been hell on wheels for 9 days.
Right. We'll talk about some of the things we're doing.
We'll talk about that, and it's turning out okay. But we got the most gentle, like we didn't lose a child.
Right.
We got what we needed with the placenta, which I'm taking, which we'll talk about too. And it's like helping. There's really an ease. And, you know, I didn't have to go through horrendous labor to only end up in a C-section anyway.
I know.
I mean, the whole thing's pretty crazy. So
yeah, it's crazy.
That's the birth story in a nutshell. And then I'm sure we'll be unpacking a lot of other ideas about it and theories and thoughts. And but I can't wait to get both Dr. Stu and Dr. Chiavari on they're going to come down and we're going to have a podcast.
We're going to do a podcast. We're going to do something in person with them.
So,
whew, man, that was an emotional episode.
Jeez.
Right? My goodness. I can't believe how raw that is, that story of the placenta, and how much it still affects me, you know?
I know.
It's like, it's one thing to have it, but then to get that knowledge of that true knot and how it was all divinely orchestrated, because without the placenta, we wouldn't have known that.
Right.
It's just so crazy.
And then because of that, I feel like that's where the fibroid circles back around. That pain, I really do believe, led me to be done and go up there and, you know, like want to get out of it really quick. And that was what, I mean, I feel like none of that pain was wasted. And that was a reason why that hadn't been removed. Had I had another pregnancy without all that pain, I might have not got any scans. I might have, you know, it's like, what if? But, and you can't live like that, but I just feel so blessed that it went the way it did, because they are just such beautiful souls.
Just amazing. I'm still like,
I know,
almost crying.
I know.
Ah, man.
So we'll talk more about it, but thanks for everybody for hanging with that story. I know it was long-winded, but we wanted to get it while it is still raw and while we're, you know, because we're so grateful.
We only shared about 10% of what actually happened.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So.
I was probably too drugged to remember the other 80 anyway.
Yeah.
90. Like I can't even add. 10% and 80 only equals 90. Oh, Lord. Knights of the Templar. Full circle.
Templar.
All right, guys.
All right, guys. So
we got to go free up our friend watching our kids.
Yeah, that's the only reason why we're able to do this show right now.
Thank God.
So this was episode 569, and I want to let you guys know if you want the show notes to this episode, you can go to extremehealthradio.com/569. And also, if you guys want to sign up to, or actually join the Extreme Health Academy, the whole point of the academy is to avoid hospitals, basically, I realize sometimes that's not possible, but if you want to join the academy, I won't go into everything that it has, but it's an incredible community of people, with monthly courses, with Dr. John Bergman, and we're doing some incredible stuff there. So if you want to take your health to new levels and you want to overcome any kind of health condition,
and have a community to
and have awesome
have your
people
back, man.
Yeah, it's just an incredible community. So if you were looking to do those things, make sure to go check that out. That's at extremehealthacademy.com. And I want to give you guys a coupon code if you want to join and get 2 weeks free. If you type in the coupon code EHR14, that's capital EHR14, that'll give you a 14-day free trial. It's free for 14 days, and then you can check it out and see if it's for you. But thanks guys for also visiting our store and making us able to continue to do shows and
to be able to feed our twins.
I know, to be able to feed our twins. My goodness,
truly, you guys have made this all possible.
And to buy the tables for them and all that kind of stuff. So
they need.
Your support means the world to us. So thank you.
Love you guys.
I love you a lot. And if you just want to share the show on Facebook, or if you have any people that are interested in natural birth, share this with them. And there might be a couple nuggets there for people to, I don't know, resonate with or something.
Totally. I know it's not going to be wasted, any of this.
Yeah. All right, guys. We love you.
Guys.
Thank you for your support, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Bye.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context